Today, we have a special guest all the way from US. He's been a writer, he's been an actor, he's been an investor, he's been all abroad. Now, today, he's here with us talking about a lot of things which matter for the Indians who are looking into US, to go there, to settle there. What's it like? How's the country? What's the political spectrum like? How's the economy like? There's a lot of different questions which the normal guy would actually ask. So let's actually get into this. Base question which I would like to start with is like most of the Indians, who look at the Hollywood, who look at US as a dream country. Now they look at the economy which is booming, or at least that's the dream which is sold here.
Yeah, that's the illusion.
Yeah. So for a youngster in India who's in his early 20s, mid 20s, thinking about US, dreaming about US, now there is two spectrum in that. One, a little bit of educated, a little bit skillful, but the other one, highly educated, highly skillful. So when they both want to come to the country, they all follow different options, how to reach there. Now, how does this actually reflect to Native American like you, like when immigrants are coming in different routes?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I've been following Daniel for about 5 years now, and he's been a big help with me in investing and educating me about the financial markets. But over that time, I've gotten to know Daniel on a personal level, and it's good to finally be here with you and your family.
Cheers.
So I have to also say I'm an actor, and I'm not the authority on any of these topics. These are just merely an opinion. But as far as immigration, I was raised on the border of Mexico, down on the Texas border there. And so immigration was just part of life. As far as I grew up hunting, I grew up spending a lot of time in the outdoors. And I remember there were some mornings where I was in very warm clothing on below freezing weather. And I'm sitting there hunting. And one by one, you started to see these people go across the road in T-shirts and small jackets where it was freezing. And these were illegal aliens coming from Mexico. It was just Mexicans back in the day. And I thought to myself, look at the links that these people are going to try to get a better economic opportunity. And what must they be trying to escape for the betterment? Like, look at the risk that they're taking and willing to put their family under these circumstances. So that morning, that changed my viewpoint and my outlook, because like we were just talking about, there's no black and white answer to this stuff. It's gray, and it's going to be dependent. I guess it's about, what is the intention of the person coming to America as an immigrant? Is it, I want to come here and I want to contribute to the society, I want to contribute to the culture, I want to immerse myself and integrate? Or am I coming here because it's an easier, softer way? And so, when you're talking about humans, there's no easy answer, especially when you're thinking, what must they be trying to escape for the betterment of their family? So I think it goes individual to individual, but the whole idea of just coming in and there's it all waiting for you on a silver platter, I think that's a little bit of a illusion. Yeah.
Now that dream has been sold in India over decades. Like there have been a lot of different individuals who've traveled to US, especially those from the medical profession.
Right.
Like the nurses, the doctors, they've reached there, they've been successful, they built a career there, and they've been buying assets here. So their neighborhood, all they understand is that this guy went to US, compared to what he was earning here, he's earning 10 times that.
Right.
And I believe that's true, because I've known a lot of these families from India, from Pakistan, who've been moved to US, and now they are Americans. Like they hold the passport, they change the passport, and they give a lot of value to the country. But I say, like, it's not for everyone. If your profession is in demand in that country, it matters. But nowadays, it's not like that. The universities, colleges, the agencies in here, they give fake dream to the kids. Like they say, okay, you go to this college, you go to this university, you're going to get the PR, which is like the green card, and you can study any topic you like. And I'm like, is all of those jobs still in demand, or it's just few region, like which is in demand for all these skilled immigrants?
It's like where I'm from in Texas, oftentimes you would see Latin Americans standing on the street corner selling oranges. You would see them running lawn care service jobs. A lot of people from America aren't willing to do those jobs. So there was a vacuum there for people that wanted to do this. They're willing to do anything for the work. You're talking about a more learned educated group of people that are coming over, I think, that are looking for higher level of learning kind of qualification jobs. As I was telling you earlier today on our drive back from the airport, you know, one of the socioeconomic groups that contributes the most, that has the lowest level of crime, that has the highest education rate, it's always Indians. So, you know, I think there was a void there for a while, especially as technology advanced, medicine advanced, you guys using your skills, your intelligence, coming over and filling that. I think that market has gotten saturated, right? And also there's a whole new generation of Americans that are indigenous to the country that are also starting to fill some of those roles. Not to mention that same illusion that you're talking about that was sold in your country. Many countries, there's immigrants coming from all over that are willing to do this with the same level of education, the same willing to drive. So I think it's about finding what's the newest thing. You know, it might be media, it might be AI. Who knows what it will be. The market will show us that.
So the base idea here is like, if that topic has been there for like 10, 20 years, it's most likely saturated at this point. So if you are ready with the skill sets for next 5 years, next 10 years, like say AI, robotics, quantum computing, if that's your field, then maybe you have a great potential there in that country to contribute and to grow as a individual, right? That's the point there, yeah? So now the next thought process here, a lot of us in India, we're looking at the election in US, like how it will actually turn out, because the political spectrum was one in extreme end one side and the other guy was extreme on the other end, at least as we see from India, right? And at the end, Trump came into power. Now it's the Trump's administration which is there, and we're watching a lot of Indians being deported, because they're illegal. I mean, they came in through Canadian border, they came in through Mexico. Right? It's not the legal procedure which they went through initially, so now they're being deported.
Right.
So, and one of the things which I noticed the most is like, not even 1 in 10 was South Indian. It's almost, I was surprised to see like there was none from South India, but there's still a load of people from India, which kind of distinguished this part of India. But to the point, the argument of people being deported from the new administration, those who are very liberal in this country, they see it as like, you know, dictatorship. But those who are at least a little bit of consciousness, the base education,
playing in reality.
Yeah, those are really practical. They understand the situation. They're like, you know, that has to happen. That's the only way.
I mean, if that was going on in your country, what do you think would happen? If y'all had the budget or the deficit that we have, and we have the amount of money that is being falsified going to all these programs, which Doge has shown that like there's a lot of money going to undeserving, not only individuals, but government programs. I imagine any country would say something very similar. It becomes very different when you're looking over the fence. Also, I got to say, like, I think the fact that Trump won by such a large margin, I don't think it's fair to say he is equally so far to the right as Kamala and Biden camp were to the left, because many of the liberals that used to vote Democratic came to the other side to vote Republican. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the turnout. And so I think there's a natural balancing going on a little bit of like at some point, you know, identity politics is effective until it starts touching your pocketbook. Yeah. But as far as the dictatorship, you know, when you have a really serious problem going on, it's going to take a personality that's going to shake up the status quo. We were talking earlier today whether it was Jesus Christ or Socrates, any of these guys who were turning science, turning religion, turning things on its head, saying something very counter to what society was going with at the time. They're never going to be, and I'm not comparing Donald Trump to Jesus or Socrates by any means, but it's going to take somebody who's going to come in and shake the status quo, because it's not easy to come in and change a political system like the US where money is at the core. It's not about politics, it's about power and money at this point. And to come in and shake up the legacy, you know, structure, it's going to take someone who's going to piss off, pardon my French, a lot of the people that are benefiting from the current system. And so like I lived in Los Angeles for a long time, and one of their biggest allocations in their state budget was to end the homeless problem, right?
And it's been there for how long?
It's done nothing. Yeah. But if I was making $250,000, $400,000 a year, to try to end the homeless problem,
Why would I end it?
why would I end it? And so you have that in all these bureaucracies of like, why would I try to actually do the job that I mean, it's like Warren Buffett said, right? Like I can fix the deficit in a short time, because any time that if we came in as a deficit, then you don't get to run as a senator next time. And they would put some fire under these people's bellies instead of like, as soon as I'm voted in on day one, I'm trying to do something effective to bring about some positive change. I don't know if I actually addressed your question there.
Some of the concerns is like the bankers here, while in last few weeks I was sharing my time with them, some of them were like, look at US, anything can happen. See, that guy stopped the US aid. It's a bad thing to do, blah, 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 blah. There was a lot of help from that country flowing into all the other countries. And I was like, okay, these are well-educated guys, branch managers of reputed banks, right? And I was like, what are they really pointing towards? Like, it's the actual wealth of a country which they were distributing to help others. Now, it's at their free will which they were doing it, right? The moment Trump administration announced like they're going to cut all of these, like for them as a US citizen, you should actually see this as a waste of money which is flowing out when you already have that amount of burden, whether it's unfunded liabilities or the total debt, right? So in which spectrum do you stand on? Like where we see, okay, the guy just cut the US aid.
First of all, it's not US aid, it's USAID. It's a nice promotional packaging, thinking it says US aid, because it touches the heartstrings of like, oh, we're doing good. But what we're doing is we're creating all these bullshit programs that look like we're doing something for humanity when it's a great way for the Democrats to wash their money. They're allocating, $800 million to find out if rats are gay when they cut their tails. Or like, you can't make this stuff up about like what the studies were doing. That one I made up, obviously, but they're no less silly. So what are they actually cutting there? They're cutting a lot of fat off that the bureaucrats are benefiting from. It's no different, I think, from potentially this war in Ukraine and Russia, in the sense of why are we sending so much money? How much of that money is actually getting to the cause versus it coming back into the Democratic pockets? Obviously, you can hear that I'm more of a conservative, but I have a real hard problem. You and I talk economics. The U.S. has a different capital gains that I have to deal with. Imagine you took 37% out of your earnings and it went to taxes. You thought it was going to your roads. You thought it was going to the fire department. Instead, it's going to fund some study that has absolutely no real significance in making a change in the world, and we're calling it U.S. aid. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
That makes a lot of sense, because when you say US aid, it does touch us the heart. Like they are spending money on poor people in poor countries like that. But the way you just put it, it's the entire opposite of that.
That's my problem with the more democratic leaning, is because it sounds like they're always standing up for moral causality, but they're actually about the power the same way the Republicans are. They're both about power and money and greed, right? But at least I know who I'm dealing with the Republicans, right? They're not hiding behind the cloak of we're doing this in the name of humanity. To me, at least, it's the lesser of two evils. I mean, they're two wings on the same bird.
Yeah. No, because one of the other argument which that manager was making was like, if you look at the cuts inside the budget, these guys actually cut it against the climate change. Like they cut the budget for climate change. See, it's tsunamis, say it's earthquakes, see the climate is changing so much, the earth is kind of getting buried into all of these chaos. Whereas I'm like, okay, that's what we see from here, right? So when you're in the country, what is the actual people who live in they talk about this? How does they feel?
What city are you talking about?
Oh, it's different city to city, right? Oh.
I mean, like if you go to America, every city is the nicest people in the world if you think like them. Right? But if you go to San Francisco versus going to, Biloxi, Mississippi, you might as well be on two different planets. But they're also living in two different realities. Ultimately, you're playing to people's hearts. So
it's a voter's game.
It's a what?
Like to get the voting base.
It's a game of manipulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a reason that Trump won, I think, in many regards. Is like when I lived in California, I'll probably never work in Hollywood again after this interview because I'm talking so much negative on it. But one of the things, me being from Texas, my grandfather being a farmer, my dad being a military veteran, you heard this saying all the time. If you lived in New York or California, they called it the flyover states. The rest of America was the flyover, like these people. Well, these fucking people are fighting your wars. They're growing your food. They're the heart and blood and soul of America. Like if people come to visit America and they say they went to New York and LA, I say, you didn't go to America.
Yeah.
This is not real. And so, what Trump, I think, touched was those people whose voices, their very being, their soul isn't being recognized by these people. I worked with a guy who was a writer who he went to Yale and Juilliard, and he was a political writer for a senator, and they wrote a lot of policy on immigration and never had any boots on the ground around that world. They're writing policy having never ever entered that world. It'd be like me saying that I'm a specialist on Mars and I have never even studied Mars or been there. That's the problem, is the disconnect between people in the U.S. government versus the people. And I think Trump, whether he's actually doing it or not, he's meeting people in their hurt, in the sense of, like, you're overlooking us again. You're overlooking us again. You're sending my kid to a war in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever it is. And this is Republican and Democrat. But you're sending our kids there, but we're the flyover states. Like, after a while, people are going to get really tired of that kind of mentality.
Yeah, for a lot of Indians, when we talk about US, it's primarily about New York, it's primarily about California, right? Most of these talks are like that. And when we take the stats, we've actually gone through that before. Like, most of the Indians who go to US to study, they primarily target California. And I was looking at the average tax, average income, the jobless claims, all of that, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me to go there with that cost of living.
It's immigration friendly, though.
Yeah, that's one of the primary reasons, and it's a little bit free, right? So they reach there, putting that amount of capital there. Like, when you convert from INR to USD, you lose a lot of value, right? They still do that to reach in California. So the way you just put the basics of America, it kind of explains a lot why after a few years they move out. Most of them end up in Houston or Dallas, Texas, right? Most of them.
Well, life is possible. I was telling you guys earlier today that, like, if you move to California or New York when you're young and you're poor and you're okay with being poor, you don't have a family yet, yeah, I'm willing to live in the expensive area in a little bitty studio to pursue my dream. But as soon as you fall in love and have a kid, maybe two, you have to move to the suburbs, unless you're like that small fraction of people who made it, who got the dream. And if you can't afford to, like, move to the suburbs of California, you might move to Oklahoma or Minnesota, where, like, once I moved myself from LA to Georgia, the quality of living is, I mean, the weather and the sushi are great in California, but as far as square footage in my home for the dollar, actually having space, actually not being in your bathroom and brushing your teeth and looking 5 feet away from you and there's a person in their bathroom brushing their teeth. It's like a lot of things you are willing to sacrifice because you have this dream, right? And I've always said that LA is like that metaphor, and maybe New York. I've never lived there, but I know for LA, a lot of people come there needing to, I call it the broken toy pile, right? In the sense that they're coming there to fix something or achieve something that's going to make them feel like they're enough. But because of that, it's almost like, it's like the frog in the water. If you slowly start to heat it up until it's boiling, until it dies, it doesn't know that it's slowly dying. I think LA sometimes is the same way, in the sense that if you're there long enough, your measure or barometer on what's real, the line in the sand slowly gets a little bit further away. So, like, you're coming from India. It took me 21 hours on a flight that was only one stop on the way here. Imagine doing that with your whole family. Like, how much of a dream do you have that you're willing to go to that length? That's a big motivation. But you get there, and it's like I got to the airport last night. If your family wasn't there waiting for me to escort me to the car, imagine getting to America and knowing no one. And it's like, okay, I'm in LA. Where's my job? Where's my dream? It's the reality, I think, sets in very, very quickly. I mean, there's opportunities there, but again, that's where the movies are being made. That's where the dream is being constructed.
It's like a false narrative which is being said there, so that there's a lot of agencies which make money off of these people here, getting commissions from the colleges, universities across the spectrum, whether it's in US, Canada, and New Zealand and all. But primarily for US, when we do focus on that, a lot of Indians are starting to now understand, like, okay, maybe we don't have opportunities there in this field, but if I boost my CV on this aisle, maybe I have an opportunity. But then still
boost my what?
Resume.
Okay.
Like, they're not ready to give up the dream of US. And as he said, like, not everyone understand they are the frog in that water which is being boiled. And a lot of bachelors going in, they are like that idea. Okay, you start, you struggle, you survive, then you thrive. Yeah. Whereas there's a lot of families who are putting all these things in risk. The way I think about it is, like, you don't really sacrifice the current standard of living to achieve another one. That's like, when you have a family, that's very risky. Not a lot of people really have that amount of risk tolerance, but they're willing to take it just to say, okay, I'm in US.